After a very long break, I may be back to doing videos on here again. I've uploaded some videos in the meantime, but those have been simply convention videos I've attended, and not scripted and edited like this one here. So hopefully this year I get back on track, but we'll see. Anyway, on to the video, and yes, as always, I'll be counting down from my favorite to least favorites, and these will focus on the major comic book movies that were released theatrically. So straight to DVD ones don't really count.
And start saving ourselves.
Last year's comic book movies were grandiose. There were a few who would take my top spot. Of course I had to choose Joker being my favorite of 2019. The acting, story, directing, and performance by Joaquin Phoenix were all fantastic.
I'm just trying to make people laugh.
And how's that going for you?
This film wouldn't have worked with a PG-13 rating, so I am glad it received its R rating.
It's okay, Gary. You can go. I'm not gonna hurt you.
And how the whole controversy didn't affect the release of the movie. In fact, I think it helped it even more. I generally only see the trailer to a movie, and tend to avoid the plot or knowing much about it prior to seeing it. And all I knew was that this wasn't going to include Batman and was going to be a character study, and like most, I initially thought this movie wasn't going to work. But it did. It surprised everyone, and it got people to shut up about audiences disliking Little Joker because we still had Ledger in our minds. But here comes our boy Phoenix, which most people loved his portrayal of the Joker.
I think we've had enough of your jokes.
What do you get
I don't think so.
when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash?
Call the police,
I'll
Gene.
tell you what you get.
Call the police.
You get what you fucking deserve.
That he was nominated and won some awards for Best Actor.
Really, I'm standing here on the shoulders of my favorite actor, Heath Ledger. So thank you and good night.
Coming in second is Shazam.
Gentlemen, why use guns when we can handle this like real men?
To be honest, it was pretty difficult choosing between this and the third movie.
Shazam?
But I came down to choosing Shazam because I rewatched it a bit more than the next entry, and I absolutely love the tone and feel of the film. This was a bit of a breath of fresh air for the DCEU. Sure, Aquaman had a similar tone with it being more humorous and lacking the seriousness that kicked off the DCEU.
Could've just peed on it.
But Shazam did it better in my opinion.
You see nipples? Why are you talking?
We're gonna need more money.
Why? You're in there for like 5 minutes.
Dude, we're very convincing.
And I do feel the child actors all had chemistry together.
Say my name.
Billy!
No, not my name. No, say the name that I say to turn into this guy.
Shazam!
Especially Billy and Freddy.
No offense, but like at first you were kind of like the opposite of how Darla is.
A dick?
Your words, not mine. But yeah.
Mark Strong as Dr. Savannah was finally redeemed from his performance as Sinestro from the 2011 Green Lantern film.
Outlook, not so good.
And how for a change the final fight was in a carnival with minimal property damage, with no fate of the world behind it. And can we appreciate the foster parents? They showed genuine care for their adopted kids, and overall seemed to be pretty cool. That's what I liked about this film as well, that it had heart and some laughs for all to enjoy.
Maybe this time I'd stay. I mean, after all, I'm home.
What you been doing?
Absolutely nothing.
Our number 3 is Endgame, to which you may wonder why I placed it as third as opposed to first or second. And the reason for that is, while I do think it's a good movie, it didn't manage to captivate me as much as Joker or Shazam or even Infinity War. Sure, there were great scenes and I fucking loved Captain lifting Mjolnir.
I knew it.
It's probably one of the best scenes in the MCU. I loved and shuddered when Cap finally said it.
Assemble.
In theaters the first time I saw this movie. So yeah, before you crucify me for placing Endgame third on my list, just an FYI that I did like it and loved a few of the scenes.
I'm still worthy.
After Endgame, there weren't much fantastical movies available, but this one is the last one I genuinely enjoyed.
Spider-Man!
Mainly due to Jakey Bear being in this movie as the main villain, Mysterio.
Well, you can call me Quentin. But you handled yourself well out there today. Saw what you did with the tower. We could use someone like you on my world.
The one thing I disliked about Mysterio is that he was once again created by Stark.
He renamed my life's work Barf. I told him it was a mistake, that my technology could change the world. And then he fired me.
It seems Tony is creating all of the MCU Spidey villains. You know, next thing you know, Tony bought most of Oscorp stocks, which in turn caused Norman Osborn to snap. Or how Sandman was using his powers for good, until Tony destroyed his sandcastle. Anyway, I'm getting a bit carried away with the villain talk. But I do feel Jakey Bear helped elevate the film's performance and get it to my number 4 spot.
And nowadays, they'll believe anything.
Well, since we're on the same team, how do I look?
This movie was alright, I suppose. It wasn't terrible as some might say. There were a few entertaining scenes.
Good kitty.
The performances were great. I loved seeing Sam Jackson for a majority of the film.
I'm about 5 seconds from complicating that wall with some ugly-ass squirrel brain.
And who could forget the cat who managed to beat Captain Marvel in popularity with what characters people were excited to see for the movie. All in all, a decent entry in the MCU, and a decent film in general.
Trust me, true believer. Trust me.
El investigador paranormal más grande del mundo. Muchacho del infierno.
Okay, now this is where shit really hit the fan. It's not as mature as Del Toro's version, but it is way gorier. That may be the one thing that I did like about the film. The dialogue is terrible and crass at times.
And for fucking good reason.
But it makes up for it with Harbour's acting and the action scenes.
Monster, pal. You look in the mirror recently, Scarface?
Is that meant to be humor?
Maybe. My therapist does say that I rely on jokes as a way to normalize.
One thing equally as entertaining was Mila Jovovich's meltdown on Instagram over the movie being a box office bomb, and the negative reception by both critics and audiences, and how Hellboy 2019 will be a cult classic in the future. You know, like Dazed and Confused.
It's a simple extraction. We go into space, we get the astronauts, we bring them home. Any questions?
Yeah, like 1,000.
We don't have time for 1,000.
I love the X-Men, so I was disappointed when I first saw this movie. I mean, how do you have Quicksilver in it but give him like 2 minutes of screen time, and absolutely no cool super speed scene?
Be right back.
But then again, this $200 million film was handed over to Simon Kinberg, his first ever movie he would be directing, which is not a good sign. It sort of reminds me of Josh Trank with his second ever film being Fanforstic. Say, anyone down for a Change.org petition to get a Kinberg cut? To be honest, I would give this film 10 out of 10 for killing off Jennifer Lawrence as Mystique. but then drop it down back to a 0 for wasting my boy Quicksilver.
Hey, slow down. Safety first.
And absolutely destroying the legacy of the Foxmen, since it didn't end with a bang. And many people said that they liked The Last Stand more than Dark Phoenix, which is hilarious, since Kinoberg wrote The Last Stand and said he learned from his mistakes, and it would improve upon the Phoenix Saga storyline with Dark Phoenix, which we all know didn't happen. The best thing about the film has to be the score. Gotta love me some Hans Zimmer. Anyway, those were my top comic book films from 2019 based off major publishers that had a theatrical release. What were yours? Let me know in the comments. And before I sign off, I do have to say I hope to be more active with videos. I may start reviewing movies, and I'll say it right now that not all movies I'll review are going to be geeky movies, like these or movies based off books, anime, sci-fi, or just anything nerd related. So just to give you a heads up, alright? Be excellent to each other.